Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Live at the Waterhole. And first up, we're at the Mabula Game Lodge in the Waterberg. Now, my name is Ralph Kirsten, and what does the bush hold in store for us today? Well, you'll have to sit back, relax, and watch as all the different animals come down to quench their thirsts and cool off. And as per usual, please don't forget that this is a live and interactive experience, so we'd love for you to jump on board with us and send us through your questions and your comments. You can do that by going on the WildEarth website and registering. You can also join the conversation on X, formerly known as Twitter, using the hashtag WildEarth. What is it that you'd like to see? What would you like to chat about? Whatever it is, wildlife related, send it on through. Now, what's this very little interesting character that we have here? This is an interesting little bird. I think a good idea for everybody to get their bird books out and start guessing. If you know what it is, send it through. I have an inkling, and it's a different bird, this. You don't see them all the time. And I'm also jumping through my bird book. And so let's join in and see who can find out or get the right answer. Looks to be the size of about a shrike. It's got rather a small little bill, and it does look a little bit like a cuckoo. So what I'm thinking is it could be a cuckoo shrike, potentially. Is it a grey cuckoo shrike, maybe? Seems to be hawking is the behavior that we see where birds sit on a perch like this and then fly off, catch an insect and fly back to the same perch, a phenomenon or behavior called hawking. Maybe not a cuckoo shrike, maybe one of the flycatchers. Claire LaRue saying, good day, Ralph. Good day back at you, Claire. Nice to have you on board. And the reason why I'm leaning away from a cuckoo shrike is just that that bill doesn't seem broad enough. It's quite small. Is it a dusky flycatcher? I'd say potentially more so an ashy or a blue-grey flycatcher. It doesn't seem to have that dusky color to it. So Calvin asking, how does it stay still on such a shaky branch? Well, those are the toes at the back on their feet. It does assist them in being able to perch like this, but they do have to have very good balance, and the wind not making it easy, but he's doing a good job of it. It's always interesting to note that with all the insectivorous birds, they've got rather a long bill, enabling them to keep the prey away from their eye when they catch it, because a lot of the insects obviously have stinging parts. So with that bill, just being able to keep it far enough away from the eye of the bird itself, and then they can obviously kill it and swallow it down without injuring itself. Now, Lana saying that it looks like it is in the go-away bird family. Well, to her, but I would say, obviously the perspective when we zoom in with a camera like this, it does make the animals look a lot bigger potentially than they actually are. And this for me is a very small little bird. If you look at it in comparison to the leaflets on this acacia, or Vachilia now called. And so I would say that this bird is probably as big and not bigger than the length of your hand. And so it's actually quite a small little bird. And the go-away family, the Turaco group, that is, they're quite large birds, probably 2 to 3 times bigger than this bird that we're looking at now. And they've got much more of a broad bill and not quite as insectivorous as this little bird, because they go more for fruits and berries, and so they don't have this short, sharp little thin bill of the insectivorous birds. And Yellow Duck saying how cool it is that they avoid all the thorns. Yeah, absolutely. What's going on with these little guys? But they do a very good job of it. Now that wind really shaking this branch around. I'm still concentrating, looking out for insects. Now, Claire LaRue saying almost looks like a greater honey guide and would love to learn more on the birds. Not very good at the identifying. Yeah, it is an attained art, the birding, but I would say that this is an ashy flycatcher. Normally good to learn the kinds of groupings of birds, and then that does lead you to get to your answer quite quickly. I've been birding for 30 odd years, but still don't know all the birds. A lot of them I know just by the call. So by sight, I actually find more difficult to identify the birds than the calls. And so especially these smaller little birds can be quite confusing, but as long as you can get to the general grouping, and as we always speak of, you look at the general impression of shape and size, and then that leads you closer to your answer. And we do the same with birds, trees, grasses, etc. Always try to work through the identification key in your books, and then and once you learn the groupings of the different families, then obviously you can get to the species a lot quicker. And according to Newman's, these ashy flycatchers, they're very quiet birds, so quite inconspicuous, and we mostly don't hear them calling at all. So Limbury was saying, is it not a spotted flycatcher? I'm not going to rule it out completely, Limbury, but even in the shade here, it does seem to me that there's more of a grey color to this little bird. And initially I thought maybe dusky flycatcher, but as I say, just with that greyness to it, I would say most likely an ashy flycatcher. It also looks quite similar to a fairy flycatcher, but if you look at the distribution, most likely wouldn't occur in Mabula. So I would say 80 to 90% sure that it's an ashy flycatcher. Right, so nice little start with this little hawking flycatcher. But let's head up to Kenya and Old Donyo. Now, this is one of the busiest water holes that we will come across. And as per usual, we've got some Maasai giraffe coming in for their midday drink. Could there be some elephants about? Looks like there might be one off underneath the umbrella thorn on the right-hand side. Just relaxing in the shade there, giving the giraffe a chance to come in for a drink. And this particular waterhole is very good to watch at night as well. All sorts of predators coming in to drink too. Lots and lots of birds coming in. And we've even had some birds of prey. African hawk eagle, a gymnogene, we've had brown eagle. Been a little bit quiet on the zebra, eland, and oryx front, but still lots of elephant and giraffe. And of course, you can hear the red-billed oxpeckers, the hitchhikers on these giraffe. You can see lots of them there. And that's because the giraffe obviously carry hundreds, if not thousands, of ticks on them. So lots and lots of food for the oxpeckers, being sanguinivores or the eaters of blood. And you can see them attacking all those areas where ticks generally sort of attach themselves onto the giraffe in the armpits. Normally also just above the back legs. And very often then getting right up into the ears and even around the mouth. All those soft areas of skin. So, with regards to the ticks, and you often have guests and viewers asking about them, and how much detriment are they to the animals. Um, and a nice little blog from Kapama speaking on ticks, and they say that most guests visit wildlife areas to see all the large animals you may find, and maybe some of the smaller creatures that are easily seen. But one of the small ones most people miss, however, are the ticks. Although when they're in huge numbers, like we see here, we see them quite a lot. And they belong to the arachnid family, and there's millions of them all around most wildlife areas, but almost never seen because of their small size. Some animals, like giraffe, can host up to about and more than 7,000 ticks at any given time. And others, like buffalo, almost around 10,000 on one animal. And although they might be of little significance to these animals, only one tick on a human could cause severe illness by causing diseases such as tick bite fever, which can be very dangerous. But they are obviously very much a part of the controlling factors within wilderness areas, because they don't give much significance to a healthy animal. But as soon as the resources, i.e., the food and water, sort of are not of good quality, or there's not much available, the condition of the animals and their immune systems will drop. And then this is the time when you start having animals getting sick and dying from diseases that are carried by parasites, such as ticks. And this forms part of natural selection, survival of the fittest, and only the best genetics then will make it through those tough times, ensuring that those strong animals and the genetics that they carry are then passed on to the next generations. So, and then Lana was saying that she remembers that I did a segment on a giraffe and if their hooves can overgrow, which was very fascinating. Yeah, and that was at this waterhole itself. And it was very interesting because I was speaking of could, and their hooves overgrow, that we often see with animals in captivity. And we see it with horses, donkeys, cattle, etc., where on farms where they literally need to get a professional farrier in to make sure that their hooves are trimmed back, clipped back, and kept healthy. But obviously, out here in the wild, there's no farriers, and so the wild animals rely on the terrain to help to keep their hooves from overgrowing. But it's when there's an injury that occurs to a foot, such as a stone getting into the hoof itself, and then the animal doesn't press onto that foot enough, and then you start having an overgrowth. So, generally resulting from an injury, and then the animal not putting enough weight onto it and keeping that cutting down of the hoof enough. And giraffe here with a heavily overgrown hoof. Shame. It was obviously in a lot of pain and didn't look good at all. It's the first time that I've seen that with animals in the wild, and it was very interesting to see. And once again, the view of Mount Kilimanjaro directly behind these giraffe is obscured by the amount of clouds that we have around. We've had one day where we could see the snow-capped peaks pretty much in the area of where this tallest giraffe, or the one closest to us, has its head. So if the clouds clear enough, you can literally see the snow on the top of the roof of Africa. Alrighty, so nice stop in here at Aldonho as always. And let's change of place completely. Let's head right down almost to the tip of Africa and Stony Point. where we've got a lovely view of a couple of African penguins on the beach. And what a contrast to the wilderness of Kenya. Having a little bit of grooming. Now, this is the only penguin species that we find in Africa. And in terms of their nesting, they dig little burrows. And with guano, which is the feces of the seabirds and seals, being their preferred nesting substrate. So not it's a very smelly affair. But the males are larger than the females, with slightly larger beaks as well. And they are monogamous. So they mate with the same individual for many, many years. So a couple of other names for the African penguin, also known as the Cape penguin or the African penguin. And as I said, confined only to southern African waters. Like all penguins, it's flightless, very streamlined body, and wings stiffened and flattened into flippers. Specific marine environment, enabling them to be able to swim after those fish and catch their food. And interesting in terms of their diet, they feed on small fish like sardines and anchovies, as well as even small crustaceans and squid, whatever they can get on to. But each penguin will eat about 250 grams or 1 pound, more or less, of fish per day. And they absorb water as well as nutrients from their diet. But they're also adapted, enabling them to be able to drink salt water. And that's always interesting because drinking salt water for animals that are not adapted for such would obviously make you even more dehydrated and you would die eventually. But many marine birds, such as penguins, gulls, albatrosses, and even pelicans, have got built-in water desalination filters. So it's incredible evolution, with salt glands and ducts which connect their bills that rid their bodies of excess salts. So these birds can drink seawater straight up or eat prey, such as the fish, the squid, and crabs that are just as salty as the seawater as well. So Jessica was asking, where's the preen gland on penguins? Now you'll see this one where it is busy sort of pecking, the one closest to us. The penguins actually have a gland near the base of their tail. And it's the preen gland or the uropygial gland. It's also called an oil gland or preen gland, and that's where they produce their preen oil. And so very often with birds, you'll see them turning their head onto their backs. That's where a lot of their preen glands are. But here you'll see them, the penguins, going to that area at the base of the tail a lot. And that's where they then obviously access that oil, which is then wiped over the rest of their body. Now, it's also very important for them to actually do this because very cold water down here in this part of Africa, and it can average 15, 16 degrees and get a lot colder than that as well, sometimes 12, 13 degrees. So it's quite a cold temperature for an animal to survive, and they spend a lot of time in the water hunting. So in order for them to stay warm and form almost like a neoprene wetsuit over themselves, the penguin must constantly work with those feathers and keep them clean, well oiled, and also then waterproof through the preening itself. Yeah, there's another one, also looking like it's doing some feather maintenance, and some more sitting around on the rocks. So it looks like everybody coupled up, except for one in the middle. It's like Billy No Mates. Okay, so lovely change and seeing these beautiful African penguins here at Stony Point. But time to change, and let's head up to the Madikwe Game Reserve and African Town. Nice little breeding herd of elephants have come in. And some enjoying a nice scratch on that perfectly situated scratching post. And now some zebra also coming through, wading through the mud to get to the water and have a drink, while the Ellies does bathe in the background. Always the best time for elephants at Waterholes, around midday, right across the board in all the different game reserves. Looks like the water may have even dried up quite a lot more since the last time I was here a few days ago. I'm sure at some stage they will replenish it, pump some water out. And I would imagine that the crocodiles have probably moved over to the more deeper side of the waterhole itself, closer to the dam wall on the left. So cheetahs and other animals saying, OMG, this is so elephantastic. Madikwe seems to always deliver the best elephant sightings. Just for sheer numbers, I know we've had some awesome sightings at a lot of the other waterholes, but they just keep coming here, both at Tau and at Jamala. I'll say Jamala probably takes the cake in the recent past, just for sheer numbers. And lots more coming through over on top of the dam wall there. There's movement in the water. Oh, I thought maybe there was a crocodile there. That could have just been the elephant sloshing the water about. They love getting into the water, yeah, especially the bulls, and coming for a nice feed. No, and there's a warthog, too. Seems like they've been for a lovely mud wallow. And always interesting to watch the dynamics when the breeding herds come down to the waterhole, and there's meetups of different breeding herds and mixing up with the bulls as well. Lovely to see their social interactions. See how those elephants have stopped? The individuals in the front sort of put their ears out. I don't know if they're concerned about something. But there seems to be some kind of conversation going on, for whatever reason. And another thing I love to see with breeding herds is when there are babies, but of similar ages as well. Nice to have siblings that are more or less the same age as you. At least then there can be lots of games and highly entertaining as well. the March of the Elephants. I'm hoping they're going to come in for a drink on the right-hand side of the waterhole. You see off on the left there, a couple thought having a drink from Mum. Now, something that I've always found interesting as well is in terms of the mammary glands, and the positioning thereof of different mammals, because, one of the characteristics of being a mammal is obviously having mammary glands. So all mammals do have them, although there are some that are quite strange, and I'll get to that. But the location of the milk glands themselves, whether they behind the front legs or in front of the back legs, is what I've always found interesting. And it's actually largely determined by their evolutionary adaptations to their specific lifestyles and environments. And mammals that have evolved with milk glands towards the back of the legs, or the back legs, such as cows and goats, and obviously all of the antelope, etc., often have young that need to access the milk while standing or walking. And this positioning allows the young to easily nurse while keeping up with the herd and the moving herd. On the other hand, mammals that evolved with milk glands between the front legs, such as humans, most primates, and obviously elephants, hyraxes, they often have young that are carried or held close to the body. And this positioning allows for close physical contact during nursing and bonding between the mother and the offspring. So ultimately, the positioning of the milk glands in mammals reflects the diverse ways in which different species have adapted to care for their young in their different respective environments. Now, what the interesting part is that monotremes, such as the platypus and the echidna, are primitive egg-laying mammals, and the last of their order still alive. Those mammals, instead of having mammary glands that end in teats, they excrete milk from similar glands that are open onto the skin, and the young have to then lick the milk rather than suckle, which I find extraordinary. Right, so I think we'll keep it on the elephantastic side of things for now, but we're going to change of place once again, and let's head back to Old Donyo. Where we've got a big boy with big tusks that's made his way in for a drink. I wonder if it was that one that was relaxing up in the shade of that umbrella thorn on the right. Not quite 1 ton. I think he's been around, but it seems like he's enjoying coming through here at night rather than during the day. Haven't seen him for a while, but he has been viewed on the Africam. Now, Lucy Kwedi was asking, where is Tau Lodge situated? So, Lucy, it's in the Madikwe Game Reserve, which is in the northwest province of South Africa, right on the border with Botswana. And Tau Lodge is right up in the northern part of the reserve itself. So, almost on the border of Botswana, but still within South Africa in the northwest province of the Madikwe Game Reserve. And Karen Gill is asking, is it true when elephants travel very long distances that they walk in a single file? Yes, it is, Karen. And it's quite the same with humans as well. They sort of establish game paths, and when they walk long distances, they very often use these game paths. It just helps them to walk easily. And walking in a single file, obviously all on that same path as well, being led normally by the matriarch. And as the leader, then everyone else sort of falls in line, and it does make for easier walking, especially over long distances. See this big guy using his tusk as a nice trunk rest. All right, so we've got a little bit of a clip of highlights of what's been happening at the Old Donyo Waterhole over the last little while. So let's have a look at that. And just as I was saying, right, this waterhole gets a lot of different predators. And this here being a little one, it's a black-backed jackal. And this is just over the last 48 hours or so. So very recent. But generally don't see them here during the day. There's a black-backed jackal. And who is this? There's a white-tailed mongoose coming in, with eyes very close together on their heads. A very fluffy tail. Oh, hello. Young lion. Not sure that white-tailed mongoose will be hanging around here, just as I thought. Off he goes. Jackal. You can see his eyes reflecting in the infrared. This lion doesn't look in very good condition at all. Looks like it needs a good meal. Right, so we will be doing that with some clips and highlights of the recent past, especially during the night time when we're obviously not live on the midday show, 1 to 3. So we miss a lot of that action at this time of the day. And so nice just to bring in some of the highlights there. There was actually an awesome interaction posted by Bill the Bull. It might have been exactly around the same time of this lion coming in, because there was also a white-tailed mongoose. But firstly, a caracal came in to have a drink, and then a white-tailed mongoose, which I think might have been that one, came in, and the caracal hissed at it, and then the white-tailed mongoose fluffed itself out as to make itself look bigger, and then was actually having a go at the caracal, which was a very interesting interaction. But I think he was just, if you could say, bluffing, trying to act, aggressive, and in so doing, eventually made the caracal move off. So I think the caracal, if it wanted to, could have obviously killed the white-tailed mongoose, but just because of the bluff that he portrayed himself as this aggressive individual, I think the caracal thought again, and off he went. You see this bull elephant, he's broken his right tusk. He probably uses that one more. Now, whether or not it's been just from general wear and tear, accessing food, getting stuck into trees and pulling the bark off, etc., or into the ground, sometimes breaking open termite mounds or whatever it might be. Sometimes it can break then, but very often also while fighting with other bulls. You have a lot of the tusks then breaking off in those instances. Lots of birds that generally come in to drink here as well. It's quite difficult to spot them and see them close up, but there's all sorts, from obviously the red-billed oxpeckers that come in hitchhiking on the different animals, mainly the giraffe, especially recently. But I also get the little cutthroat finches. You have the superb starlings, all the different doves, from emerald spotted wood doves to the ring-necked doves, laughing doves, red-eyed doves. So lots and lots of different birds. And butterflies as well. I've seen citrus swallowtails, lots of the different whites and yellow butterflies too. So frozen screen there, we'll keep an eye on it and probably go back at some stage. But we've hopped on over to the Greater Kruger Park and Juma, where it seems to be very windy today. I don't see anything for now. Now this tree is where there's a nest of a pair of brown-headed parrots. You can see them around for now. And that, you can also see the results of what the elephants do to the trees. That one that the parrots are nesting in has been ring-barked and killed, essentially, because the transport processes of the Zambian, the cambium, with the xylem and phloem, being the water and the nutrients, aren't able to travel up and down the tree anymore. So when elephants do this, it can be quite destructive. And there's actually one of the naturalists, old Rexon, he's part of a project that they go around and they put wire, chicken wire, around the tree, and it just stops the elephants from being able to ring bark the tree, and so helps these big trees stay in place and not be killed by them. There's a hippopotamus. It's probably Dewey, the resident male. Here's an Egyptian goose with a chick, I think. And there's a blacksmith lapwing. Does look like a chick. So a bit of a wobbly camera now. It's obviously just because we're zoomed in and there's lots of wind around, so everything is magnified at the end of the lens. Now, where is our Dewey? If it is him, he's a hippo that likes playing with sticks. So who knows? We might get to see that. So, nice little stop in here, Juma. It's pretty quiet for now though, so I think let's change of place. We're going to stay in the Greater Kruger Park, but let's go to Rosie's Pan. For some more birding, yes indeedy. There's always lots and lots of little birds here. That looked like a cinnamon-breasted bunting. We often get the little waxbills, the twin spots. I actually think it's a golden-breasted, not a cinnamon-breasted bunting. Buntings, for me, are always recognized by them having this kind of Zorro mask on their face, and also very little birds, as you can see. Here comes a blue waxbill in on the right. A beautiful turquoise color to the chest and the underside of the body. Lovely cool off for the bunting, not just having a drink, having a bath. These little birds, always very busy, and don't stick around for long. And the blue waxbills, they've got a very close relationship with blue seed grass, because they tend to use that for their nesting material. So you could say that that's a mutualistic symbiotic relationship, because the birds are getting obviously their nesting material from the grass, and the grass getting seed dispersal, because wherever they make their nests and they pull those pieces of grass off, lots of seeds transported to other places and then shaken about with the wind. And the blue waxbills also like to nest in very thorny bushes, and very often also very close to wasp nests. So they've got the double-edged sword of defense system, being the thorns, as well as if any predator tries to come in and go for their nest with the eggs or the chicks or whatever it is, shaking the bush and activating the secondary defense system, which is the wasps. There was a terrapin coming to have a look there, and you see the birds flitted off. because given half a chance, a terrapin will grab them, much like a crocodile does, and pull them into the water and eat them. I've seen this done many times for unsuspecting birds, but those little characters are normally very sharp. It's more the likes of doves that aren't quite as sharp as these little guys. Now, Lulu asking, do they eat the wasps? Obviously, the blue waxbills. No, I believe that waxbills are granivores, so they eat seeds and so on. So they're not insectivorous, and purely choosing those sites because of the assistance in the defense of those little nests. Now, I was thinking he's going to try and get out. Let's see how he goes. Probably wants to sun itself a little bit, get some energy, and maybe go for a hunt. Now, these terrapins, they've also, their defense mechanism is obviously they've got this shell that they can retreat into, but they've also got glands underneath the shell itself that exudes a very stinky smell. It's terrible. And I've unfortunately caught a few while fishing, and landed them on the boat, but I only did it once. There was somebody else that brought one onto the boat, but immediately when I saw it, I knew immediately what it was. I smelt it before I saw it. But it's incredible, the stench. It's another one of those evolutionary adaptations to and anti-predator behavior. Really does work. And I think also one of the reasons why historically they haven't been eaten by humans as well. Very often you'll see predators sort of, sometimes they're successful, but mostly not, with tortoises trying to eat them. They don't really produce that smell. But I've never seen any kind of predator trying to eat a terrapin. Whether lion, leopard, jackals, any of them. And I think it's down to that stench that they produce. Whereas they will go for tortoises. And sometimes, especially with the smaller ones, they're actually able to crush the shell and then feed on it. But no terrapins have I seen being done the same to. Now, Miss is hippie, saying the birds sound beautiful here. Yeah, you hear a lot of those little twin spots and waxbills, especially that high-pitched waxbill call. It's like an emerald spotted wood dove. Now looking to come and have a drink. Very interesting. You see with the doves, as with some other groupings of birds, they have a gullet, so they don't need to lift their heads when they drink. And it's an interesting observation because a lot of people don't know this. But most birds, you'll see when they drink, they sort of scoop some water up in their beaks, and then they lift their heads up to sort of throw the water down their throats. But with the doves, also the bustards, they don't need to do this because they have a gullet, so they can suck water up and swallow with the head still down. I think it might be a way for them to counteract that they're not the cleverest birds in the world, and they're not quite as sharp as these little guys that you see coming in now. So it enables them to be able to drink quickly and then fly off. But you see here, these guys, they take a little scoop and they have to pick their heads up in order for the water to go down. Not so with the doves. So, for now, just the real common residents around all the different waterholes, the blacksmith lapwings. All right, so another highlight coming your way. Let's see what's been happening over the last little while. So obviously also within the last 48 hours or so, you can see very often lots going on during the night hours. We have a big herd of buffalo, breeding herd, coming in to enjoy the water and have a drink. Wow, that's really impressive. Looks like there was also a bit of rain around. There's this insect flying in front of the screen. Crazy stuff. Going for a swim as well. And a cute little baby. Looks like it's all become too much. It's just going for a bit of a rest. Looks like it's putting for a swim though. A couple of youngsters about. So yes. You can see that this waterhole does get very busy, albeit during the day. It's Sometimes it's mainly just the birds, but we do have lots of elephants coming through here too. Warthogs. We also had, I believe it wasn't me, but I think there was even a wild dog hunt here. That was even on the show. Lots more little birds coming in there. I think it might be waxbills, petilias, mannikins, twin spots, any of those. So Mindy Tillapaw saying, wow, I didn't think all those buffalo could fit in Rosie's pan. It was a lot of buffalo, wasn't it? Oh, and here comes a great go-away bird. Now, I forget who it was that said the little flycatcher looked like a great, or the go-away bird family. You can see how much bigger this bird is, and it's got that real cape, as we call it, or the crest on top of its head, and you see a much broader bill as well. Them being frugivores, eaters of fruit. They'll be enjoying it now, there being lots of marulas on the trees and on the ground. It is marula season. And once again, another bird without a gullet. So it's got to pick its head up to be able to get that water down. And off he goes. They're always vulnerable when they're down by the water, so obviously birds, they're always looking over their shoulders because everything wants to eat them, so they don't hang about in that position for very long. And what's this coming in now? Looks like it might be a babbler. What is that? Is it an arrow marked babbler? And the blue waxbills again, unmistakable with that turquoise front. Now, that looks like a firefinch. The one on the left, but I didn't see its front. And if it was a firefinch, I would have wanted to see also the color of its bill. I didn't see it long enough there, because it's either red-billed firefinch or Jamison's. Jamison's having a black bill rather than the red bill of the red-billed. Now, if we could just get the focus right. No, not working with us there. So we've changed of place from a tiny little bird to a massive elephant bull. He's still around. Looks like he's got some thorns on his back. And here comes another. So the giraffe are going to have to take a back seat for now and wait for the elephants to finish. So Joyce was saying, enjoying this birding. Thanks, Ralph. Well, thanks for watching, Joyce. Lovely to have you on board, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. Always good to do a little bit of birding, especially at the different spots. We see different birds. Generally, there are some that we see at all the waterholes, the blacksmith lapwings and the Egyptian geese. But here's quite special too, where they're totally different birds, a lot of them, but with some similarities as well. But they don't generally come in when the big elephants are around. So it's all the boys for now. Giraffe, bull, seemingly going to come in now and join the elephant bull as well. So, cheetahs and other animals saying very much enjoying the show. Glad that you are, cheetahs and other animals. And lovely, as always, to have you on board. It has been a lovely show. Lots of animals about, a nice variety as well. Good to do some birding, but always good to have these big boys here at Old Donyo as well. Now, Bonnie Blair says, swishing elephant tails. Reminds me of Disney's Dumbo movie. Yep, it sure does. For me, it always just shows that they're really relaxed, chilled, and there's nothing that they're worried about. And those tails are just swishing like that. When they point at a right angle, you know that there's stress, they're concerned with something, and they normally go storming off then as well. I remember at one of the game reserves that I used to train the guides on, we used to have a lovely sundowner spot that also had a small concrete dam. And we used to go to that sundowner spot because we could also have a little dip in the water as well. Being in the Lowveld, very hot in summer, so we used to like going there. And the one day we arrived there, everybody got off the vehicle, and there was a young bull elephant that was in must, and he came looking for trouble. And we were all up on the side of the dam wall, and he came charging at us. And I don't go anywhere, especially when I'm on foot, without my trusty pepper spray can. And he was really looking for trouble. He charged up to the vehicle. He then saw us, and he charged towards us. And so it was a perfect example or situation for me to be able to show the students, who I'd told on many occasions that instead of obviously using the last line of defense, a rifle, when you're going out on walks, you can always use a first weapon, which is a pepper spray, especially with elephants. And I sprayed a line. It needs to be a direct stream. And I sprayed a line on the ground, and I retreated from there back to the little farm dam. And this elephant charged up to this line of pepper spray, and he stopped immediately. He turned around and he charged off, and we saw the trees smashing out of his way as he went, and he was, and off he went. So it was just another prime example of showing how strong their sense of smell is. And it's not going to do any permanent damage. Half an hour or so later, there will be nothing wrong with the elephant. So in those kind of situations, we both landed up safe and sound without injury, and a wonderful way to be able to turn an elephant without obviously the obvious use of a firearm. So I think a lot of the students that have been out with me that have been able to witness those kind of examples with elephants will obviously, if they're still doing trails guiding, will be walking with pepper spray now as well. So Sandy Franklin, 69, saying, good morning, Ralph. Just getting my day started with you guys. And, well, it's afternoon for us, but good morning to you, Sandy Franklin. And what a lovely way to start the day. Then Safari Lover saying, if man Waterhole, will the elephants remember that, or will it be one they stumble upon randomly? Safari Lover, I think they might stumble upon waterholes sometimes, but I think they can pretty much smell it from a distance, even a few kilometers away. So there's not really much stumbling upon water with elephants. They can smell it from a long way off. So if one is built and there are elephants in the vicinity, they'll smell that water and they will come in to drink from it. So, obviously once they taste the water, if it's nice and fresh, then they'll definitely return, that's for sure. But if it's not very nice, maybe they won't, but it's all down to the choice of the elephant and the individuals. But if there's water available and it's good fresh water, the elephants will definitely visit it at some time or other, and they will return. We've even had on different game reserves that I've worked on and managed as well, lots of problems with elephants, even digging up water pipes. And we always had to bury it, and we learned this, after them being dug up so many times by the elephants, and they destroy the pipe, and then obviously, it leaks everywhere, but they think it's wonderful, because now they sort of create their own little water hole. But we lose the water, and we need to fix the pipes again, and then dig it back into the ground. So we found anything under a meter wasn't deep enough, and the elephants could smell that water, even in a plastic pipe. So we had to bury it deeper than that. So Sandy asking, is the elephant keeping the giraffe from drinking? I don't think willingly, Sandy, but it's just because of the nervousness of the giraffe. But yes, just by it being here, these giraffe are nervous to come in and drink. It's just their disposition, the way they are. Sometimes you have some individual giraffes that don't really mind too much, and they'll take a chance. There was one earlier, I think, that had a drink while the elephant was here, but just being a little bit too nervous is all. He's not really chasing them away. It's just up to them, really. Not stopping the birds from coming in. They're going to get chased off now by the giraffe if he finally decides that the elephant doesn't mean any harm. So Safari Lover saying, I love how the giraffe drink. Amazing to see such a tall animal get that close to the ground. Now, I always find it very awkward from the giraffe, obviously evolved with a long neck, but not long enough to reach the ground. So having to either do the splits or the crouch or a little bit of both for them to be able to get their mouths down to the water, but also making themselves very vulnerable at that time as well. And that's often why they resort to taking a lot of time making sure that there's no predators around. I think added in with the state of being and mind of giraffe in general, very nervous, very anxious, and with the added problem of having to put your head down to the ground, and then you're not able to see what's around you anymore. So Diane from the UK is saying, just want to let you know that I always enjoy your commentary, Ralph. I learned a lot about the birds today. Thank you. And as always, thank you for joining us, Diane, all the way from the UK, in the Mud Island. And lovely to have your comments, your questions, whatever it is. It's always lovely. So thank you. So is this big old boy had enough now? He's thoroughly wet his belly. He's got a bit in the ears too. So he's nicely cooled off. And he's had a good old drink. So maybe he's going to give the giraffe a chance. Or maybe not. Maybe he's just teasing them, eh? And I know that elephants really do have a sense of humor. They, on many, many occasions, it's always when I'm in a hurry that the elephants block the road. And it's that they can sense that I'm in a hurry, that they'll take just that much longer to move out the way. In general, they don't really, have or spend too much time in front of me. But it's always when I want to get moving that they just want to take their time, take longer than usual, and make me wait that bit more. But no, he's finally decided he has had enough. Now's your chance, giraffe. Get in there. Oh, and the bird's giving it a fright now. So Danny saying that looks like the water level is low. Danny, yeah, it does fluctuate here quite a lot, but it's very quickly filled up, and it's the elephants that drain it so fast with the amount of water that they do drink. So yeah, it does go up and down, but as soon as it starts getting low, we might come back tomorrow and it might be very full. It's been overflowing at times, even right over where that giraffe is standing now. So, and you can see off on the right-hand side, it was overflowing, and it's caused quite a bit of a mud pool there on the right-hand side. So maybe that's why they've just let it go down a little bit, but I'm sure they will be filling it up. And you can see this bull giraffe really wants to drink, but he's just a bit too nervous to go in and actually do it. A bit of sneezing, I think, from the one on the right. That's pretty much the most noise you'll ever hear coming out of a giraffe. Right, time to get in for a drink. Go for it, chaps. So Dark Mane Lover saying, Ralph, wouldn't the giraffe know that elephants are not a threat to them by now? They're both vegetarians. Well, Dark Mane Lover, they can, elephants can be aggressive to other plant-eating animals. We've seen that. They love chasing zebra around, especially the youngsters, the young elephants, that is. So I think that they do understand that they can be brutes at times, but as you saw earlier, the giraffe are even scared of little birds. So I think it's just their character, and that's why they pretty much steer clear of everything except other giraffe, who they can have very aggressive fights with between themselves. But all the other animals seems like they're pretty much scared of. I must say that at times I've been glad that giraffe are not aggressive in any way, because it's nice when you're out on foot and you can get up pretty close to them, but they generally just run off. But just imagine if they were more aggressive as a species, we'd have to be worried about them too. And Marianne van Heerden saying, I think the bull ellies are the Waterhole bullies. Yeah, well, Marianne, if you've got it, flaunt it. If I was a big elephant bull, I think I'd also push my weight around. I think you'd have to be an elephant to know exactly how it's like to be an elephant. But yeah, I think definitely size matters. There we go. And when there's more giraffe around, they seem to relax a little bit. And when one goes for a drink, then you generally see more also doing the same. See one using the splits, one using the crouch, and one using the half-half. So they've got mixed strategies here. Now, Lady Macbeth is saying there's always a hierarchy at a waterhole, and elephants are at the top, most certainly. Even if lions come, they'll chase the lions. They hate lions. But yeah, I would say definitely number one. I've also noticed different waterholes having different sort of antelope species that are, more dominant than others. You look at the oryx at Okukuyu in Etosha of Namibia. I would say that they're the more dominant, especially when there's a few of them around. The other animals do give them more space than the likes of zebra and impala, springbok, etc. So other than the elephants, there generally is some other animals. Here we've noticed that when the zebra come in numbers, they even bully the elephants out of the waterhole. So there are times when the elephants aren't always at the top. And here is one classic example where it does take a lot of zebra, but as soon as there's enough of them, they seem to just sort of move into the waterhole with sheer numbers, and the elephants back off and have to wait as well. So sometimes the tables indeed are turned. And Patricia S. saying, what a great sighting. Yeah, absolutely. It's always lovely here at Old Donyo. There's very rarely quiet times. It's a lovely waterhole and one of the busier ones. Mindy Tillapo saying, giraffe drinking is my favorite thing to watch. For me, I always just feel how awkward it is. And sometimes it is frustrating. I've sat at different waterholes with guests waiting for giraffe to come down for a drink. And Okukuyu, once again, always comes to mind because they sort of zigzag in the background, sometimes taking hours to get down to the water. And they sort of get into the pose to go down, and a dove flies past them. They get a fright. They run back another 100 meters, and the whole procession starts all over again. So at which time I sort of say to the guests, I'm going to go and start the fire. This is taking too long. But let me know when you finally get a photo. But one man's frustration is somebody else's favorite sighting. And Prairie Dog saying elephants are the police of the bush. Yeah, they are pretty much, hey. They sort of chase the predators around. They keep everybody at bay. I think it's a lot to do with their size coupled with their intelligence. And so they've got a lot going for them. Right, so a little bit of technical difficulties there. But anyway, we've headed on over to Juma, back in the Greater Kruger. And it was quiet earlier, but now lots of impala have moved in. So this is lovely. Still quite windy. You can see a couple of young rams in amongst this breeding herd. Who knows, maybe we'll hear some alarm calling from these impala and we'll get a last minute leopard. You never know your luck. You very often find as well, when it's very windy, a lot of the animals are very nervous because there's lots of noises, there's lots of smells going around, and so they can be quite nervy, quite twitchy, and getting sort of alarmed by everything. It's quite windy today, and I wonder if that's what's bothering this impala. But it seems to be looking in this direction, so we'll just look there too. can't see anything. Well, that doesn't mean there's nothing there, because a lot of these predators, they just disappear in the bush here. So maybe there's a leopard, who knows. And back to our residence, the blacksmith lapwings. Always busy, and for now they're doing a little bit of feather maintenance, as were the penguins earlier on in the show. But their preen gland being sort of on the middle of their backs, not at the base of their tail. So just a different positioning. And that's why you'll see them very often sort of scratching around in that area, getting that oil from the preen gland. I think that's Dewey, our resident hippo bull. But of course the camera going to focus in on this, what I think is a red bush willow. Looks like he's having a lazy Saturday afternoon. Why wouldn't you? So Boogeyman asking, are lions around the area hiding? Boogeyman, generally during the heat of the day, lions have got very high heart rate, as do most cats. And this is a very big reason as to why, well, it's the way that they've evolved to be nocturnal, more nocturnal. So during the day, especially when it's hot, you know, this high heart rate coupled with the heat, it makes them very lethargic. And so they normally spend the days lying up in the shade, just keeping cool. And then when it starts to cool off is generally when they become more active. So you could say hiding, yes, but also, you know, sitting up in cooler areas, in the shade, sometimes in lower areas, maybe, you know, depending on wherever the temperature difference is the best and optimal for them to be cooling off. So that's where they would be during these daylight hours, especially around the middle of the day. And so we have seen lions during the days. You know, they'll be more active when it's nice and cold, or there's even some rain around, whatever it might be. But yeah, generally when it's hot, you don't have much activity from lions. You can have more activity from the likes of cheetah and leopards and wild dogs in the daylight hours, even when it's hot. But they also do prefer to, you know, do more of their hunting during the the cooler hours and into darkness. Cheetah, yes, they try to avoid those other big predators by hunting during the middle of the day when they are resting up. And so it gives them a better chance of being able to keep the kills that they make because of this. So, but, they also struggle when it's hot. So the hotter it is, the more exertion they need to put into the hunts and the more chance they have of overheating and exhaustion. So preferring those cooler hours. So, and Dark Main Lover saying thank you, Ralph. I appreciate all the knowledge that's been shared and that is truly appreciated. Well, Dark Main Lover, it's really appreciated that you're always commenting and you're very often watching. And so thank you as well. And that being said, we are slowly heading towards the end of the show. So as per usual, I'd like to say thanks to all the viewers for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And don't forget that we will be back again tomorrow. I'll be back again tomorrow. So we hope to have you on another Sunday watching and relaxing, watching the waterholes. With that being said, there'll also be the Sunset Safari coming up after this, so don't go anywhere. Lots of action coming your way, and the naturalists will be out and about right here on Djuma, and hopefully they can find some of those predators that I was talking about. That's what we hope for, and so as I say, don't go anywhere, because these are live broadcasts, and you never know what's going to happen. And of course, thanks to all the wildlife for being the stars of the show, and to the whole WildEarth team that make this all possible. You guys rock. That's it from me for now, folks. We'll see you again tomorrow. Salagatle, bush greetings, cheers.
By another 24 hours and we've got plenty of highlights to share with all of you. So I hope you're ready for On Safari.